Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 21, Text 19. Ekasvaya samjagata shishkashaya dvitiyatmanadi yogamayaya srijayashada pasi punargasishyase yathornanabhir bhagavan swashaktibhi. Eka, one, Swayam, yourself, Sun, being, Jagata, the universes, Shishkrashaya, with a desire to create, Advitiya, Advitiyaya, without a second, without a second, Atman, in yourself, Adi, controlling, Yoga, Yogamayaya, by yoga, Srijashi, you create, Adaha, those universes, Pasi, you maintain, Punaha, again, Rashishyase, you will wind up, Yatha, like, Umanabhi, a spider, Bhagavan, O Lord, Swashaktibihi, by its own energy. Translation. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O personality of Godhead, desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy called Yogamaya, just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy and again winds it up. Just read the translation once more. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes. O personality of Godhead, desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under the control of your second energy called Yogamaya, just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy and again winds it up. I hope everyone can hear me. I've been having some technical issues here, but if there's
Prabhu, we can't hear you again. He's joining through his phone. I think his computer crashed again. Prabhu, you're on mute.
Hare Krishna.
Yes,
Lakshmikant
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Yeah. Sri
Tell
Vallabha.
Prabhu to use his phone instead of this
No, he's
laptop.
doing his phone now. I think he
Okay.
logged in from his phone. That's what he said, texted me.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. But he's on mute. Not sure if he's having problem in unmuting himself. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? I know it's a little complicated.
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Trying different devices. Thanks for technology here. Okay. Oh God. Okay. Prabhu, can you see me? Maybe not.
No. Yeah, now we can.
I'm gonna try. Okay. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
And can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, you can hear me, obviously. Obviously. Okay. Thank you. All right. So continuing from where we are, so I'm just going to read the translation one more time. My dear Lord, you alone create the universes, O personality of Godhead. Desiring to create these universes, you create them, maintain them, and again, you maintain them and again wind them up by your own energies, which are under your control of your second energy called Yogamaya. Just as a spider creates a cobweb by its own energy. So, but by His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this verse, two important words nullify the impersonalist theory that everything is God. Here, Kardama says, O personality of Godhead, you are alone, but you have various energies. The example of the spider is very significant also. The spider is an individual living entity, and by its energy, it creates a cobweb and plays on it. And whenever it likes it, winds up the cobweb. It winds up the cobweb, thus ending the play. When the cobweb is manufactured by the saliva of the spider does not become impersonal. Similarly, the creation and manifestation of the material or spiritual energy does not render the creator impersonal. Here, the very prayer suggests that God is sentient and can hear the prayers and fulfill the desires of the devotee. Therefore, he is Satchidananda Vigraha, the form of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining and thank you for your patience for bearing with me. We had some technical issues this morning. And without further ado, I'd like to get right into this discussion. It's a very interesting text, and actually a very interesting chapter as well, which is in the continuation, the discussions that are happening, nested discussions, one might say, one within the other. And today we're specifically reading from the third canto, chapter 21, which is titled The Conversation Between Manu and Kardama Muni. So Swayambhuva Manu is the son of Lord Brahma, right? He's a Prajapati, just like Daksha. Daksha was also the son of Lord Brahma and a Prajapati as well. And just as we were reading in the previous chapters, Lord Brahma created several different kinds of living entities, including the Prajapatis and the sages. Okay, so Swayambhuva Manu was one such Prajapati. And he had 2 sons and 3 daughters. The sons were Priyavarta and Uttanapada. Uttanapada, of course, is the father of the famed Dhruva Maharaj. And he also had 3 daughters who were Ahuti, Prasuti, and Devahuti. So Ruchi and Daksha, who were also Prajapatis and the sons of Brahma, just like Swayambhuva Manu, Ruchi married Ahuti and Daksha married Prasuti. So moving along, Lord Brahma instructed Swayambhuva Manu, Kardama Muni, who was a very, very great sage, as we know, to procreate as well. So a little background on Kardama Muni and Devahuti, so that it puts things in perspective, especially in the context of this verse, which is pretty significant that Krishna is personal and not an impersonal. So we learn that Kardama Muni had performed devotional services and penances for 10,000 years, 10,000 years, to receive benedictions from the Supreme Personality, Sri Krishna himself. And in this case, for material causes, at least seemingly, right? It sounds pretty enigmatic as to why such an elevated personality like Kardama Muni would ask for material benedictions from the Supreme Lord. Right? I mean, we've spoken about this, other devotees have, discussed this as well at length. When Dhruva Maharaj saw, he started out with originally thinking about being able to achieve a kingdom greater than his grandfather or great-grandfather. But when he got the darshan, when he got, when he was in the attendance of the Supreme Lord himself, all of that was just wiped away. He didn't feel like asking for that anymore. He felt like that it was trivial, right? So in this case, though, Kardama Muni is asking and requesting for a material benediction. So we'll get into a little more about why, right? And what that looks like, further expounding on what was discussed over the last several days. Now, Kardama Muni had taken to this, 10,000 year penance, as well as, the devotional services that, along with that, so that he could prepare himself. On Lord Brahma's request, he was asked to procreate. Now, to procreate, obviously, you have to have a wife. In this case, for Kardama Muni, was looking for a wife, right? He had to find a suitable wife so that he could carry out Lord Brahma's instructions properly. But that could come at a great risk as well, because one can easily get caught up in sense gratification, right? As we know from the pastimes of Vishwamitra and Menaka, right? So Kardama Muni, being the sage, the renounced, sage and, highly elevated personality that he was, he didn't want to get caught up in this material attachment by any means. But at the same time, he had very, very high regard for Lord Brahma, and obeying, in accordance with Lord Brahma's instructions. Kardama Muni agreed, but on one condition, that once he begot children, he would, get back to his renounced way of life. So he set about preparing. Imagine preparing. He didn't just go out there and say, okay, the first woman I see, I'm going to find, marry her and have some children. No, that was not how he went about it, right? Instead, he prepared himself by performing penances for over 10,000 years. Over 10,000 years. And he did this with intense focus. It wasn't just a trivial affair. And 10,000 years, even in his lifetime, was a significant amount of time that he had spent, right? So pleased with his penances, the Lord appeared himself on Garuda and gave him the material benedictions that Kardama Muni asked for, and confirmed that Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa would offer their daughter Devahuti in marriage. And then shortly thereafter, fast forwarding, Kardama Muni was visited at his hermitage by Swayambhuva Manu and Shatarupa. And then they, expressed their, appreciation for Kardama Muni. And also they expressed their daughter Devahuti's attraction for Kardama Muni as well. And Kardama Muni, welcomed them with great love and respect. And he agreed to marry Devahuti, reminding them that, he would return to his renounced way of life once he begot children. So for many, many, many years, Devahuti served her husband selflessly. I mean, she was so devoted. She was such a wonderful wife. And through, with much affection and very tirelessly, she would serve him to a point that she even started neglecting her own body. And it is said that she had actually become emaciated and her bodily features started to deteriorate. And seeing her unflinching devotion, Kardama Muni, he was so pleased that he through his siddhis, he was able to create this aerial mansion, a mansion that didn't touch the ground, but it was a palatial mansion filled with opulences. And he even restored his wife Devahuti's bodily features and her health, and to a point that, she was vibrant and, her beautiful self again. So this continued. They lived for many, many years, enjoying the celestial, pleasures of the mansion that Kardama Muni had created. And in time, he also expanded himself in 9 different forms and had children. He had 9 daughters with Devahuti. So with his responsibilities fulfilled, he said, okay, it's time for me to move on. Just as I expressed to your parents, Devahuti, it's time for me to move on. And she was sad. She was sad. She was like, my dear husband, I don't mind you leaving, but, in all these years, I never took advantage of your spiritual, abilities, your spiritual guidance, the things that I could have taken advantage of in a good way. And by the way, I would also like to have a son. You've given me 9 daughters. So to which Kardama Muni responded saying,
I have to keep my word and I have to leave, but be rest assured, the Lord himself will appear in your womb. And, so you're blessed and this will happen in a short while. So, sure enough, the Lord appeared in Devahuti's womb as Lord Kapila. And Lord Kapila, as we know, the Supreme Lord taught the world about devotional service, about detachment, and the Sankhya philosophy. So then Kardama Muni very discreetly approached the Lord, knowing that he was the Lord, obviously, took his permission to leave and get back to his renounced way of life. And then he left. He left, keeping his commitment and staying fixed in his renunciation. So Kardama Muni is a great example to us all about detachment, commitment, and devotional service. So here are a few key points. Now, we can get a little more into this specific text. Let's, here are some points that resonated pretty strongly with me, and I'd like to share them with you and see if there's any discussion after that. So starting with, Krishna is a real person. What this section tells us first and foremost is that Krishna is a real person. Kardama Muni was not hallucinating when the Lord appeared. He did not see an orb of light or, bright energy or bright light, without form. Instead, Kardama Muni actually saw the Lord in his personal form. And that is described in detail, including, what Krishna was wearing, what Krishna had said to Kardama Muni, the discussion that they had. And that original form of the Lord was also Yavana, it was in its ever youthful form. It was not like some old man in white clothes with a long white beard and long white hair. No. This was, Krishna appearing to him in his original form in such a way that he actually, not only perceived, but had a conversation, had a discussion with the Lord himself. So clearly, Krishna is a person, not some, unmanifested form or, not a, just a blob of energy floating around. No. And also the fact that Kardama Muni was able to see Krishna. So this text emphasizes that when devotees fully surrender to Krishna, when they're fully engaged in their service without expectation of reward, the Lord is pleased and may even manifest himself. So Kardama Muni's experience teaches us that the Lord responds to sincerity, patience, and humility, but more importantly, love. As even Lord Brahma says in the Brahma Samhita, right? Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So he says very, very clearly that unless one is saturated with love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him with material eyes because we lack the spiritual vision. We lack the spiritual vision. I was listening to His Holiness Keshav Maharaj's lecture a few days ago, and he was saying that every time he'd see pictures of Srila Prabhupada, in the temple, he would wonder as to what Srila Prabhupada was actually seeing, based on the expression of Srila Prabhupada. I mean, he seemed to be in a mood that was completely absorbed. He had teary eyes, right? So he felt like, so he was saying, maybe he was seeing was something what others couldn't see. From a material perspective, we're not able to see. And Srila Prabhupada's consciousness was so pure and imbued with love that he could actually see Krishna. And then look at us, just extending that a little further. I mean, I feel, yeah, we can all see Krishna if you look at it in one way, and which is basically, we're seeing everything in this material world. We're actually perceiving it, we're experiencing it, we can touch, feel. And all of that is also, in a way, we're seeing Krishna, but that is the external energy of Krishna, right? It's the external, the material energy of Krishna. That is also, a form of Krishna. But that, is not seeing the personal form of Krishna. It's not the transcendental form of Krishna. And for that, we need to have a spiritual vision. Obviously, there is a way, there's a method, which our, acharyas have given us, Srila Prabhupada has given us, in terms of being able to achieve that even in this lifetime. And we'll get into that a little further down here in this discussion. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, don't try to see God, but instead act in such a way that God would want to see you. So one way to look at it is we cannot force our way into seeing God, but actually we need to endeavor for the Lord with love to be able to see us. And one such example, again, this is what I heard again from Keshav Maharaj, Keshav Swami Maharaj. It was very interesting. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, apparently, when he would go to the Jagannath temple, he would not enter through the front door, or he wouldn't go to the front of the altar to get the darshan of the Lordships, Jagannath, Baladeva, and Subhadra. But instead, he would go to the back of the temple complex. And in the back of the temple complex, there is this huge, tall stamba, right? The pillar. And atop this pillar is Garuda. Okay? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go stand by this pillar. And what was his logic? His rationale was that Lord Jagannath, Krishna would turn around and see Garuda. And when he would look at Garuda, maybe, just maybe, he would glance at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was standing right by the stamba. I mean, see the sense of humility. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying this, right? So it just touched my heart. I felt like, oh my goodness. I mean, a lot of us, many of us, rush to the temple. I do personally myself, rush to the front of the altar, trying to see, get a vision, get a glimpse of the lotus feet of the Lordships, even at our temple. And what we're now being told is it would be even better if we can, stand next to a sincere devotee and just hope and pray that as the Lordships are looking at that sincere devotee, he may just glance at us as well. So getting Krishna to see us in, through our services, through our love for him, through our devotion, through our commitment, is far more important than we trying to see him. It's far, far, far more important. When Krishna gets to see us, it's obviously getting his attention. And to get his attention, to earn that attention, is through a very simple, but at the same time, a very profound process, which is through the act of devotional service. In fact, George Harrison also, in his famous song, My Sweet Lord, he says, I really want to see you. I really want to see you. I really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord. Hare Krishna. So it really does take long for us to see Krishna, but that shouldn't discourage us. We are on a journey. And again, Srila Prabhupada gives us a very easy process, which is through bhakti, through devotion. One can very easily get to see Krishna. But for us, we carry so much baggage over so many lifetimes that it may seem very, very difficult for us to be able to achieve that level of devotion to a point that we can actually get to see Krishna. But as Prabhupada says, bhakti is a very easy process. Bhakti can very easily, very quickly get us to a point where we can actually see Krishna. But if you look at it one way, he is absolutely right. One way you look at it is you look at the number of lifetimes that we've had and look at this one lifetime. So if you can just give one lifetime, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says, that just give one lifetime to Krishna, just one lifetime to Krishna. So what is one lifetime in comparison to all the millions of lifetimes that we've had? Almost nothing, right? It's insignificant. But for us, you're so engrossed in this material conception of our body and this life and everything around us that for us, this seems to be like, oh, wow, even the 50, 60, 70, 80 years that we live is a lifetime that it takes so long. And so I just wanted to, share that contrast with you. Yes, George Harrison is also right about it takes long, but when you put things in perspective, Prabhupada is absolutely right that, one can very quickly get to see Krishna if we can dedicate and devote our life to Krishna with love. So the next thing I wanted to mention was, the Lord is untouched. The example that is cited here in this text is also very, very, very significant, where the spider spins the web, becomes a part of it, and then it winds it all down when it's done. And if you look at it, the Supreme Personality, Lord Krishna, is also the source of this entire creation. He creates it. And then he enters it in, through his incarnations, through his expansions, right? And even as Paramatma, he is with the living entity, right? And just like a spider traveling through its own cobweb, Krishna is there in every part. He pervades every part of his own creation. And then when, it's time, he even winds it all up and it's back to its unmanifested form. And then, the cycle begins again, right? But he is completely unaffected. He is not contaminated by any means. Unlike us, we are completely stuck in this material world. We're stuck in this material energy, and it is sticky. Because the more we get into it, the more we engage, our material senses with the material sense objects, we are just digging our hole deeper and deeper. We're getting stickier. We're getting stuck in the sticky cobweb of this material life, right? And that cycle has to break at some point in time. Right? We need to come to that realization. That in itself is spiritual advancement. And then once you begin on that journey, that spiritual journey, then we need to continue to remind ourselves, because the material energy is so strong, it's constantly pulling us away from Krishna. And the more we engage our senses in these material sense objects, we're getting farther and farther away from Krishna. So there's no way of being able to even develop a relationship with Krishna. So we need to focus, like we have been saying throughout this discussion, it is only through love and devotion can one get to see Krishna. Even when we chant, right? We should, and much has been said, our, preceptors, our spiritual guides, have always been telling us you must chant with complete attention. And we'll get to that a little later here, but the point is that, you know, when we're doing these things, even the little things that we do in terms of lighting the lamp, in terms of doing any devotional service, making bhoga and offering it to the lordships, doing anything, even the smallest of the smallest things that we do, has to be in full consciousness. We need to be completely aware what we're doing, why we're doing. When we're offering prayers, it's not mechanical. Similarly, when we're chanting, it's not mechanical. We need to offer that and that's when it attracts Krishna. So in spite of all the various circumstances around us, which could very, very easily distract us, if we try and maintain that commitment, even if it is for a few moments, even that in itself is a huge, you know, achievement, especially, you know, with the mind share that everything around us is trying to grab. Now, I'd like to also read, you know, the translation to Canto 5, Chapter 19, Text 4. Unfortunately, we're having technical difficulties, so I'm just going to read it off of my laptop here. So there, you know, in Canto 5, Chapter 19, Text 4, the translation is, the Lord, whose pure form, Satchidananda Vigraha, is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, can be perceived by pure consciousness. Let me read this again. The Lord, whose pure form, Satchidananda Vigraha, is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, can be perceived by pure consciousness. In the Vedanta, he is described as being one without a second. Because of his spiritual potency, he is untouched by the contamination. Okay, I am having a little difficulty here. Let me try it again. In the Vedanta, he is described as being one without a second. Because of his spiritual potency, he is untouched by the contamination of material nature. And because he is not subjected to material vision, he is known as transcendental. He has no material activities, nor has he a material form or name. Only in pure consciousness, Krishna consciousness, can one perceive the transcendental form of the Lord. So let us be firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, and let us offer a respectful obeisances unto those transcendental lotus feet. Actually, so this is a series of verses recognizing Lord Ramachandra as being no different than Krishna himself. And Prabhupada is making the point here that Krishna, as the Supreme Personality, is transcendental. He is not contaminated by his own creation, you know, the material energy, the external energy of his. And so I just wanted to read that just to reinforce that, you know, Krishna is transcendental. He is completely untouched, just like, you know, the example that is given here, which is so significant about the spider. Now, just moving on in the interest of time. So Kardama Muni's austerities are very, very significant in terms of, you know, the rigor, the discipline in being able to attract the Lord eventually, you know, and the Lord's grace. So a takeaway is also that, you know, one should inculcate that sense of dedication beyond worldly attachments. And it also illustrates, you know, how that can in turn help, you know, us in becoming closer to Krishna and being able to get to a point where we can actually get to see Krishna. So that unwavering devotion can also be nurtured through our devotional services. So it's both a means to an end and the end itself. And then, of course, you know, the context of devotional practice. And so this particular text is reflecting the importance of focused devotion and penance and devotional service to attain those divine blessings from the Lord, the benedictions. And for that matter, even, if one's desires are materially based, like in this case, Kardama Munis, for a suitable wife, for all the good reasons. Obviously, he is following on the instructions, and he has a higher purpose. It is not trivial by any means. But as we've been hearing from other devotees as well, and as it's quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, Kama Sarva Kama Va Moksha Kama Udarati. So that verse is also saying that eventually ultimately one should worship Krishna. Demigod worship is not advised, and one should stay fixed and really, stay committed and devoted in terms of the devotional practices. Now, just taking that further, we were talking about how, someone like Kardama Muni could actually ask for a material benediction. So I was thinking about that as well, and listening to my Guru Maharaj's lecture the other day. He was mentioning these seeming contradictions can be a little puzzling, and then they can also be stumbling blocks for folks who don't really understand the underlying context. And thanks to, we need to be so grateful to Srila Prabhupada, because it is through Srila Prabhupada's purports, through his translations, through his lectures, and the guidance that he's given to all of his disciples, and who in turn have been giving us selflessly, day after day, year after year. It's just tirelessly, traveling the world. These wonderful, wonderful, wonderful devotees have been giving us so much mercy in terms of that understanding. We very, very easily could be misled by, the externality of the incident or the pastime. Yeah, like this, for instance, right, where Kardama Muni is spending 10,000 years of his life, and then he's asking for some material benediction, like, give me a suitable wife, or I need to be able to carry out Lord Brahma's instructions properly, for instance, which seems like it's a very, very materially oriented kind of a task, a chore. But no, it's not. And it's through Prabhupada's purpose that we actually get to appreciate, the profound meaning, the sense of what it really means to be devoted, what really means to be engaged in devotional service, to be able to serve the Lord the way that it actually pleases the Lord. So back to, what I was saying earlier, Srila Prabhupada has given us this simple process that can help us get closer to Krishna, even in this Kali Yuga. So through chanting, through hearing, through sadhu sangha, one can stay engaged in devotional service, and devotional service that is pleasing to Krishna. So through our morning Srimad Bhagavatam readings, for instance, and through our lectures, that we hear from our spiritual master and other Vaishnavas, we are recipients of mercy through hearing. And again, mercy is something that we receive, something that we don't deserve, really, but it's coming to us, it's being given to us due to the kind-heartedness and, the genuine love that the devotees of the Lord have for, the general population. So through good chanting, we allow the names of Krishna to enter through our ears into our heart, right? And Srila Prabhupada has even clarified what good chanting means, right? He said that one needs to be able to chant carefully. Carefully meaning avoiding, the 10 offenses, and then being cautious. Now, Krishna and his names are non-different. So therefore, we need to pay full attention. Like I was saying earlier, we need to pay full attention, because when we chant, it is said that Krishna is actually dancing on our tongue. In fact, Krishna is coming. He's saying, okay, so you called me, I'm here. I'm with you. But we don't perceive that, we don't realize that. We are chanting, trying to get through our rounds, trying to, do other things. Our minds are completely multiplexed, and working on multiple things at any given point in time. So we're not giving our chanting full attention. We need to just say, no, this is my time for Krishna. This is my time. I want to give this to Krishna. I want to spend with Krishna. Nothing else needs to come in the way. Of course, as my Guru Maharaj would say, there is a fire. If your stove is on fire, obviously you need to attend to that if there is an emergency. But other than that, we need to set aside that time and have no distractions. If you go to, if some of you have visited Bhaktivinoda Thakur's home, in India, right? And you would in Puri, and you will notice that he had a room that was very, very. I mean, when I saw it, I was completely taken aback. It was a very, very small room, just barely enough for one person. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur would sit there and meditate, and that was where, in fact, if you look at the other acharyas also, they in the lineage, in the sampradaya, they had very, very humble and modest kutirs. In these kutirs, they would basically, one person would be at most be able to be accommodated, and they would focus entirely on the chanting of the holy name. So their meditation was so perfect, and they kept themselves consciously away from all the other distractions. And that should be the mood. So we need to be cautious about that. We need to then also concentrate, as Srila Prabhupada says. So hearing by setting everything else aside. So when we're hearing our chanting, when we're hearing the lectures, when we're hearing and reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we're hearing from other, sincere devotees, we should pay complete attention, and our concentration has to be fixed. And then Prabhupada also says we need to be clear in our chanting. Clear meaning not rushing through our chanting, rather, saying Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So being able to, actually, you should be able to relish every syllable, every word, and be able to hear that. I know this is purification for me as well. I'm telling myself too that I should be able to do that. Even, as we get through the rounds, the first few, chants that we do in every round is full of consciousness. But then as we get towards the middle of the round, my consciousness, starts to get distracted and goes in different ways. I need to consciously pull it back. And then as I'm getting towards the end of the 108, I then start to concentrate better. Right. And then, the cycle starts all over again. So I'm trying to get out of that. And that takes practice. And that's why we need to make ourselves aware. We need to introspect. We need to call ourselves out. Don't beat yourself out, but at least call yourselves out when you realize that you're actually straying away from that concentration, from that focus. And we should be able to chant clearly. So when you chant clearly and when you're hearing it, then the process is being perfected. And then Kirtanya Sadahari. So Srila Prabhupada said it has to be continuous. Don't just wait, whenever you get a chance, continue to chant, think about Krishna, remember Krishna, and everything that you're doing, just remember Krishna. Just whether it's in the front of your mind, back of your mind, you're working on different things, but you're at least remembering Krishna constantly, keeping him that way. It is like an antiseptic as well, because you're dealing with the material energy, which is in a sense totally disproportionate compared to our willpower, right? Where we're not able to really gather ourselves and fight the material energy around us. It is so challenging and difficult. So what do we do? If we stay in the zone, which is the Krishna zone, then it makes it easier for us, or less difficult, I should say, for us to be able to deal with the material energy around us. And our acharyas tell us, when we remember Krishna, Krishna rearranges the material energy around us, including expanding time. Yesterday, in fact, last evening, Ruchira and I, the whole day, we were, running around trying to put all kinds of fires out, in Govinda's, and we were doing all kinds of things to get everything in order. making sure that the buffet was in place. The catering orders were happening. The cooking was going on. Preparations for today were also happening. So many different things were happening all at the same time. And all of this, one of the items got missed out and wasn't delivered. It was $1,000 item that had to be delivered. So we caught that in time, and then we were able to drive up to one of the devotees who was having a home program, and we were able to deliver that last food item as well. And in all of this, we were running out of time because we wanted to make sure that we got home, and we wanted to light the lamp. We wanted to do Damodar Ashtaka as well, as we've made a commitment to that. And we were running out of time. Absolutely, we were getting close to closing time, where we put our deities to rest at 9 p.m. every night, and we were completely out of bandwidth. We were so I just about managed to get back on time to be able to complete the Damodar Ashtaka and do that. So where am I going with this? It is just that remembering Krishna and having that sincere desire to serve him will help rearrange that time that is completely pulling us away in different directions. And lo and behold, I was able to actually, believe it or not, we were able to complete Damodar Ashtaka on time, in spite of all the various challenges, traffic, roads, this, that, and everything else. We were able to do that. And we were just thinking to ourselves, Krishna expands time for us. When you have that sincere desire, it will happen. Things that seem impossible otherwise. So with that, I'd like to, close the conversation, at least this discussion. I mean, my end of the discussion for now, and see if there are any comments, anything that you would like to share, things that you would like to discuss further. Let's do a few minutes before we close for the day.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So I know we had technical challenges. Right now I'm driving. Hope you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Prabhu, thank you for sharing that. Few things stuck to me. Especially the last point that you mentioned, it's a fresh, right? So, even I was just thinking, even if that is not successful, or if we are not able to make it on time or whatever, right? Whatever our desire or plan was, but still that desire itself, right? The whole remembrance or the whole process that you are going through, right? Trying to remember the Krishna, that itself is a, very, purifying process, or it's great, right? So we don't even need to complete the task, right? What we want to do it. I know it is good to do it, but in case if it doesn't work out also, it's good. But yeah, of course, it is very difficult.
Exactly. Just being in the zone, Prabhu. Being in the zone, we need to just consciously tell ourselves, no matter where we are, what we're doing at work, there are 100 million things happening, but just reminding ourselves time and again, getting into that practice of reminding ourselves, Krishna, you're with me, I want to remember you. Something or the other about Krishna that if you remember, just staying in that zone gives us that protection. It gives us that protection from all of these various elements and helps maintain our sanity, if nothing at all, right? With all the craziness around us, we can lose our temper, we can lose our sensibilities around, how we make decisions. All of those things will fall in order. Notice when you're not stressed, you make better decisions, right? Yes. So and especially with the stressful life that we deal with on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis, it's so much more important that we keep ourselves free from stress. Easier said than done, right? So that the best way to do it is just remember Krishna. Just be in that zone. Even if you're not spending, you don't have to read a complete verse when you're right in the middle of a meeting, for instance. I'm just giving an example. Right? But just thinking about Krishna and saying, Krishna, I'm here. Please keep me in your shelter. Please help me through this, or whatever it is, right? Having just that one-line conversation with Krishna as though he is right there, which he is. We don't perceive it. We can't perceive it. We can't see, obviously, but at least, sincerely asking for that will give us the strength that Krishna actually, makes things happen. He does, right? So that's it.
Take the third exit onto Harvey Road.
Thank you. And the other point I was just thinking about, you mentioned about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's quote. Just give this one life to Krishna.
One life. For us, it's one life, really? This is my life. But, if you put things in perspective, it's insignificant compared to the millions of lifetimes we've had. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, imagine Chaitanya Mahaprabhu going to the back of the temple. I mean, that struck me like big time, like a thunderbolt. It was like, wow, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is running not to the front of the temple, but to the back of the temple, standing by the stamba, which is behind the altar. And, with the humility that Krishna may just glance on him while he is looking at Garuda. Amazing. So that's the sense of humility I think we all need to. I mean, I'm telling myself here big time, right first in line here, but that's the kind of humility that we need to, all inculcate. Absolutely.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Any other points or any other discussion?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj La Prabhupada. This is Chintamani Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept mine too. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
A really nice class, Prabhu. And, the topic that Krishna is a personality, right? That is, like you said, by whether it's expanding time, whether it is just reciprocating when you just have a thought that Krishna, if this could happen, may I be able to light the lamp on time or whatever. I mean, his reciprocation is just so abound. It's like so much that, we receive, and sometimes we don't even perceive that this couldn't have happened with my effort at all. It's just I mean, I just had this thought, Krishna made it happen. And so, yeah, I mean, him being a personality, I mean, it's, no doubt at all. And I was just thinking again, going back to Prabhupada, he has helped so many of us, through his books and through all his lectures and talks, understand that to some extent, right? I mean, realization wise, I'm really far, but yeah, I mean, at least, um, I have some, a drop of that understanding. So just feeling so fortunate. And thank you for such a nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. We're all very, very fortunate, and we're so fortunate we have each other as well, because we're all on this journey together. So it gives me great, encouragement and support that that we are taken care of in this lifetime. And for you, especially, you're on the altar. I'm sure you see these situations happening quite often. Dhananjay Pandit Prabhu was telling me some time back, one day he was in total anxiety because he ran out of milk. This was when he was in the old temple. And the next minute, a couple of devotees walked in with gallons of milk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and my hair was standing on its ends when he said that, because we don't realize. I mean, it may sound like coincidental, may sound like it's a completely real thing, right? But when you experience it actually, right, you can feel for yourself. You can see that, hey, this is not by chance.
Yeah.
And Dhananjay Pandit Prabhu has such wonderful, wonderful stories. We can actually have our own Naperville Mahatmya, is what he says. There are so many such incidents which definitely are not coincidences or not happening by chance. So yeah, this is something that we have to experience. When we experience it ourselves, it makes it so much more fulfilling and so much more real, right? Than hearing it from others. But yeah, it's just wonderful. And the other thing I wanted to mention was, like, some of these things may look like, oh, it's just a material task. This person is driving, that person is cooking, this person is waving, whatever, right? But it's really not so much about the material qualification. I mean, that's not the yardstick. We need to, look at Jagannath Das, Babaji, and so on, right? I mean, they were not PhDs or anything like that. They were not in the corporate world or anything, but it was their pure love, their devotion, their commitment. I mean, you look at their spiritual qualification, and that is what is important. And that's what I'm coming to realize it's hitting me like big time after 32, 33, 34 years of being in the corporate world, trying to achieve this, achieve that, do this, do that. The grand scheme of things, now I'm coming to that twilight zone where I'm about to retire in a few years, and I see, man, what did I really accomplish? Been there, done that, but so what? It doesn't mean anything, by any means, materially. It's here today, gone tomorrow, kind of a thing. But spiritually, it hasn't helped at all. And so it's so much more important for youngsters who are starting out in their lives to put things in the right perspective, spend their time wisely, so that, yeah, you need to be successful, you need to do your prescribed duties and your stage of life and everything else, but don't get so crazy that you get completely absorbed, right? So that's hitting me like big time. And I'm telling my children, and I'm the people, the youngsters that I interact with, there's far more important things than just the corporate rat race that we get ourselves caught in.
Yes, Prabhu, so true. Very, very true. I mean, and that understanding has really, I feel the same way because I've been through that too, and kind of also still am in a way, but I feel so much more calm now, just thinking that, Krishna, it's up to you. Whether you want this to work or not. And a lot of the times, Prabhu, I don't know if this is, I guess, one realization. Some things, when something does not happen, and I know, in hindsight, we always understand that, it was for the good. But it's also sometimes that I've noticed is because I perhaps would not be able to handle that success. It would have gone to my head, it would have something. And so yeah, I mean, it's just that realization that Krishna, it's up to you. I'll do my part, but whatever, if you think I deserve it, fine. If not, that's fine. And that is just so liberating in a way. That whole stress and everything is like, okay, of course, it's, I have to remember this all the time. Most of the time I don't, but yeah.
Yes, so that's what you're absolutely right, and that's the Krishna zone that I was talking about. Yes, absolutely. We need to practice because the material energy is too strong. It's disproportionately strong. Sometimes I feel like I fight with Krishna and say, "This is not fair." I mean, after all, I'm a tiny, infinitesimal, soul here, and you're giving me this entire material energy to work with and work, and who's working against me all the time, not just sometime, but all the time. So that's not fair. But yeah, we need to he's saying, hey, all you need to do is remember me.
Remember.
Simple. Simple. And I'm like, no, that's not as simple as you say it is, Krishna. But that's why we need to practice. And that's why we have this life. And that's why Srila Prabhupada has been instrumental for us in terms of being able to even recognize that. I mean, so we need to be so grateful for what he's given us. And thanks to his disciples who are selflessly going all over the world and doing this constantly, giving us Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. I know I've taken up time and I've been a total mess today in terms of my laptop malfunctioning multiple times, and my phone is in my hands and it's shaking up and down. You guys must be having a headache by now. Sorry, my apologies for that, but hopefully next time it'll be better. Srikant Prabhu, with your permission, anything else? Otherwise, we can.
Hare Krishna, Danut Pranam. I think it is too late. I was hearing back and forth. Danut Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Lakshmikant Prabhu, maybe Prabhu can, if you want to, it's too late for you also to monitor. Maybe Prabhu can just say leave and, I think it should log off, right? Probably. It's just a couple of minutes. I'll want to say something.
That's fine, Prabhu. I made Sri Vallabha Prabhu as a host.
Wonderful. So, Prabhu, so many points you brought up and, reminded us many things. I really like the class. The one thing, noticeable for me was in this whole takeaway, okay, Krishna created this and created that, and, Kardama Muni, and then, progeny, and why, first of all, why he has to do all this? If he created Brahma itself, he created planets itself, he created the whole universe, Why he has to nominate another person to create that progeny was my fundamental question.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Why he has to do that? We have seen in the whole Bhagavatam prachetas, right? And then Narada Muni comes and they liberate them. And then the one after the other, like this. Swayambhu this Kardama Muni story. There's so many people, and the whole pastime of Lord Shiva, Sati, his father-in-law, whatever. So why he has to do all this was bothering me when we were starting this lecture. Krishna can do anything. He can create anything, right? So why progeny? He has to make somebody to create another one. Correct?
Correct.
So then that was my thought process. Then I realized, oh, it is not that Krishna wants to create. He can create what he wants to, but it is our desire that we want to be independent of Krishna. And if we want to be independent of Krishna and be want to Krishna, he wants to show us it is not that easy. This is the way you have to go in the cycle of birth and death. And that's why, so that's another realization came to me. That's a thought process.
Wonderful.
And then when you spoke about the Garuda Stamba, Lord Chaitanya behind the temple, I was thinking about Kanakadas, who can, in spite of he was punished that he was a low caste, he cannot enter the temple, right? When he goes back to he was behind the temple, and Krishna turned his head to see him. Kanakana Kindi, we know that story, right? So if at all he wants to see, he will see. But the way we become complacent that, oh, I'm serving the deity every day, I can be in front of the deity every day. But we are just, if you're doing, if you're thinking that way, you'll be just, okay, dressing them, but you won't be seeing the Krishna. You're thinking about, oh, I'm dressing this way, I'm dressing that way. Krishna is not seeing me. And Krishna is laughing at me. He won't be smiling at me, but he'll be laughing at me. Oh, this is what you want? Okay. So I was thinking, oh, even though you're in the altar, you may not see Krishna.
Yeah.
Right? So, but person who wants to be seen by Krishna can be seen by Krishna. And it is not that I'm qualified, first initiated, second initiated, I am there on the altar, I can do this. Still, you cannot see Krishna. In spite of touching Krishna, you cannot see Krishna, understand Krishna. So that's my thought process. Thank you, Prabhu.
Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Means a lot. Thank you. Very true, Prabhu. So let's continue to hold hands and make progress. Remember Krishna always. Lakshmikant Prabhu, he's left, right? So
Now you are the host, you can just
I'll
leave.
close the meeting if there's nothing else. I'll close the meeting, but thank you so much and for bearing with me, especially.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
वांछाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च प्रेतानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो अनन्तकोटि वैष्णवान् की जय.
Jai, Jai, Jai.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hari Bol.